Welcome back, fellow Blues fans, to the Free Blue Boys podcast. Thank you very much for our listeners and viewers for joining us again. Of course, if you're new to the platform, just remember to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button so you never miss a new upload. Please consider following us on our social media platforms, links to which are on the screen for now and in the description below. Gentlemen, how are we this week? A little bit better maybe after the initial post-match fashion from Stoke, but I suppose it's a little bit sore in the background, isn't it? But onwards and upwards, as they say.
Yeah, I think it's we've kind of calmed down a little bit now, haven't we, in terms of the antics of really the last two games, but in particular the one that just went. Don't think we need to say too much about that. I think the comments on our last video kind of said all that, didn't it, really?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think we've calmed down a little bit now and kind of looked at it a little bit in hindsight and just looking forward to the next game now and seeing if we can rectify it, haven't we?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think we were reasonably balanced as well. I mean, some of the comments that have come back from both Blues and Stoke fans seem to reflect that that we weren't, although we were angry about it and concerned about certain aspects of the performance, I don't think we got too irate. I don't think we got into kind of, Chris Davies has got to go, the whole model's wrong and all that. Clearly there are concerns about some aspects of it, but it's still very early on. It's still only 5 games in. Yeah. It depends on a lot of things, doesn't it? About round pegs in round holes, about people's fitness, about who the opposition are, so all those things are a bit of a complex mix. So I think, we took a balanced view under the circumstances, and I think since then we've reflected further. So I think we feel a bit more balanced now, shall we say.
Yeah, it was nice interaction, wasn't it, on the last video?
Yeah, it was great. So definitely thank you to everybody who did view and like and dropped us a comment in the comment section. It's our most well received video to date on the channel, so thank you for that, and thank you to some Stoke City fans as well. We seem to have some really positive feedback, didn't we? Sort of very honest, sort of felt that there was a really good post-match analysis of the game, and that was well received really well. So, and there was a lot of good points out there. I mean, obviously I think maybe some Blues fans may be creeping in with a bit of despair, and we've talked about it before, haven't we, about pushing the button too early, particularly under what we've seen under the likes of Chris Davies early on in their season, sort of talking around more around the Ipswich Town game and around when we played Oxford. Obviously Sheffield United, I know it's sort of creeped off since then, hasn't it, really? Sort of gone downwards a little bit, but I think, again, we're too early to be pushing the panic button. We've got to give it time. We really have. I don't know what you guys think.
The comments ran across the whole gamut of emotions, really, from people being, kind of stay calm and there were still good things. You pick out certain players like Patrick Roberts, who had a good debut, all the way up to people saying, this is cataclysmic. And Chris Davies has got to stop what he's doing and completely remodel the thing, or he's got to go. So, and it's good to get that. Don't get me wrong. The broad spectrum of comments that we got were brilliant because it gave everybody an opportunity to say what they thought. And on a personal note, without us kind of getting too arrogant about it, it was really nice that the Stoke fans in general seemed to see us giving a fair and balanced view of events, and that's important. We're Blues fans. We'll always want Blues to win. But it's nice to think that we see a game as it really unfolded, an objective view, rather than getting too subjective about it.
I think the general consensus from them was pretty good. Obviously, there's going to be one or two, even our own fans, where maybe I think the view can be a little bit extreme one way or the other. But that's football fans, I think, for you. When things like this happen and you go through periods that are going to be tough, and you don't really have any shots on target and nothing's going for us at all, you've got to stay supportive of the boys. And I think, like the two of you have just touched on there, really, it is very early days. And realistically, we played a very good side on the opening day against Ipswich. We played against Stoke now, in the top 2, and Leicester. That's 3 out of the 5 league games that we've played that I think are really up there. And Blackburn are also a pretty good team. They're tough to beat, and we found that 1-0 down until the last half an hour, if that. And Oxford, even then, when we won 1-0, it wasn't massively convincing. I mean, they had a chance to up to the end. They could have scored. So the point is, it's very early days, and we've got to look forward and hope that we can improve from this point.
Well, Oxford and Leicester have just taken Oxford have just taken Leicester and Coventry for a point each.
Yeah.
They didn't manage to beat them. Leicester were down to 10 men, but the point is that it just shows. I think you said this earlier on today. Anybody can match anybody on the given day. Beat anybody. And it's. The whole order of the division is still formulating at the minute, so and it'll take longer to do. It's going to be 10, 15 games before anybody's got any clear idea of how it pans out.
Well, we look ahead, don't we, Dan, to this Saturday?
We do, yep. Back at our glorious St Andrews Knighthead Park, home of course to Swansea City. Then themselves just separating a point between the two of us at the minute. They're sitting just outside the playoffs under Alan Sheehan, who's pretty much new to the management game, isn't he? He was only previously caretaker manager at Swansea City, now of course in the hot seat permanently. So they haven't lost in the last 4 league games. They've drawn 2, won 2, so they're in a very good position. And I think you mentioned as well, Dad, in terms of the way that they've been playing and what they've been proficient at in the league, is they're the second best defensive side in the division, if I remember that correctly.
They're one of the best defensive teams. I mean, certainly when they've got a record that's comparable to ours. The tackles that they make and the interceptions that they make seem to be quite high. What I found really interesting, and it's a bit of a foreboding thing about this could turn into a chess game on Saturdays.
I think it could do.
Their possession stats are very similar to ours.
I would think that they're going to allow us to have it just because we're the home team.
I can't
we like
see
to
them
dominate
pressing
the
us
ball.
high like Stoke City did.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, we could see, as Joe's just said, we could see that there's a different way of approaching it from away teams, despite them being a possession-based team. I mean, let's bear in mind as well, with all due respect to Swansea, and we have to be respectful, who they've played. You know, in their 5 league games, they've played both Sheffield clubs who are in the bottom 2 positions, and Hull, who haven't had the greatest of starts. And the Hull game was exactly, You know, so have they been fully tested yet? They lost to Middlesbrough in the first game, and that turned out to be a result against the team that were atop at the minute. So it's difficult to know what to expect, but I think you might be right. Actually, it's a good point I hadn't thought of about them turning up and playing a different game against us.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to do an Oxford or reminiscent of any of the League One teams we played last season and just sit in. I don't think that's going to be, because I think they pose a big threat to us, even playing away. And even though it's a tough place to go, I do still think that Blues will look to dominate the ball, hopefully be aggressive, and also I think I speak for a lot of fans as well who watched our last video in the post-match, is that we just want to see some fucking shots on target.
Yeah.
Do you know what?
I think we do.
Just some shots, even from range, because I don't feel like we do that enough. And
no.
It's funny, Blues put out a post a few days ago. It was a year to the day that we play Wrexham at home and beat them 3-1. And that Iwata goal, I saw that on the last bit of the highlights, and I thought, we don't do that enough.
No, we don't.
And how many outside of the box goals did we score last season? I remember the Stano, I think it was away at, was it Rotherham or Barnsley, I think it was?
Yeah.
It was Barnsley, wasn't it?
It
And
was.
Kesh away at Huddersfield
that
as well.
he scored a few. I think there might have been maybe Burton Albion away, I think was the other one or something like that. But we got to do more of that and shoot on sight, because we're not going to score enough goals, I don't think, unless we start doing things like that.
No, you don't make attempts on goal, you let alone get shots on target, but you don't score goals either. I think it's going to be about a change in mentality. I don't know if you saw as well, the team's been training at the ground during the week as well. So maybe that's a change in approach from Chris Davis, maybe trying to create some positive momentum. Sort of, this is where you're going to be, this is where you need to make it happen. Trying to change the mental sort of outlook for the players as well. So hopefully that will help them on Saturday as well. But I think you're right, Joe. I think we just need to get shots on goal from wherever it may be, because at the end of the day, you're either going to throw in a corner, you've got a shot on target, you've made the team that you're playing against consider their approach a little bit more, other than just expecting us to be high possession based, slow build up, and really not with much penetration, because then they can afford to just sit back, like teams have done. I don't think, like you say, that we're going to see how Stoke City played against us. We're going to see that against Swansea City with a high press early on with the intensity. I think very much they're going to be sort of almost playing like us, as it were, but seemingly they seem to be getting better results from it, though, and that's probably down to the way that they apply themselves when they play that type of system.
Yeah, I think it is boiling down to pulling the trigger, to be honest. And one stat that interested me, attracted my attention is, and I know some people aren't too keen on it, and on a match-by-match basis, it's not a great way of measuring things, but XG, right, for the two teams. So what I found was really interesting is that Blues' XG is just over 7 in the league, and we've scored 4. So that tells you that we are creating decent quality opportunities, but we're not pulling the trigger. That's why they're not turning into goals. Yeah. And it kind of negates the creativity argument a little bit in saying, actually we are creating some more, kind of potentially valuable opportunities than we think we are. Now, conversely, Swansea's XG is 4, but they've scored 6. So it tells you that maybe that they are doing what we're not, which is pulling the trigger when they get the opportunity. And sometimes maybe when you're not expecting them to. So long-range shots and that kind of thing. So that stat in its own right for both teams perhaps tells a little bit of the story, maybe.
I do wonder how much of that, though, was was obviously taken from all the games we played, but the Ipswich game, I feel like obviously we all know how that went. We were all over them. The amount of shots that we had and the attempts on, in their half, outside the box even, we were all over them. And then it's almost like from that point, it's kind of just like got slowly worse and worse and worse in that sense. And I think in some ways the last 2 games exacerbate that in particular, in that we don't seem to be able to pull the trigger in areas where maybe we should. And just to touch on really the last game and really the last 2 is that we just lack, I know about the creativity, and that maybe suggests that we are in those areas to actually have shots on goal. But I think that when we do start to try and create in those games, we struggle to really put the final passes together to even get in positions to have a go at goal. And that's been lacking a bit. And for me, I like to think that we've got the quality to do that properly and get into those correct positions. But I think it's just actually a bit of gelling. I think it's a bit of gelling. It's really early, so we need that, don't we?
How's it going, fellow Blues fans? Hope you're enjoying the channel so far and liking today's video. I wanted to take a minute of your time to talk about our sponsor, Bangla Lounge Indian Cuisine. For these 3 blue boys, Bangla Lounge has been the go-to choice to enjoy the very finest in Indian cuisine for over a decade now. Made with the freshest ingredients using authentic recipes, Bangla Lounge produces some of the best Indian cuisine that I've ever tasted. And if you enjoy takeaway at the end of the week, orders for collection and delivery, with a 15% discount ordering direct through the website. If you enjoy a sit-down meal, you can enjoy this for a 2-for-1 offer running up for Sunday to Thursday every week on main courses. Or if you're celebrating a special occasion such as a birthday, Bangla Lounge offers a buffet restaurant every Sunday running from 5:30pm to 10pm. So if you like a tasty curry or a sizzling tandoori, get yourself down to Bangla Lounge Halesowen. Links in the description below of our video. And if you would like to fine dine after a win in the B9. Thanks very much. Now back to the podcast. We do, don't we? And in terms of gelling, and obviously this is a crucial part to it, not only the way we play, but how we apply it, and then we get more shots on goal like we just talked about. But personnel, do you expect any changes this week?
That's an interesting question.
And I suppose not only just based on fitness on who's available, but also the type of team we want to be going forward. Do personnel changes become more permanent if it's a case of having to get more shots on goal? Do we have to change our personnel?
Yeah, I think the 2 that are out, if I'm not mistaken, it's Willemson and is Keshi out, isn't he, as well?
Yeah, Keshi's out as well.
And then obviously the other 2 being the obvious ones with long-term injuries. I think I would expect to probably see Roberts in at the wing again. I would expect. I think I'd expect Stano in the 10. I think because on reflection, I hope I'm right. Doyle didn't seem to work.
He was very absent in the Stoke City game.
Yeah, whether it was the type of game, I don't know, but
yeah, and I know some Blues fans have said in the comment section of the previous video he didn't see much of the ball, but then he didn't come for it very much. He didn't create very much, as it were. He just didn't seem very present in the game, as it were. Yeah. He's not a particularly physical player. No. And I think you alluded to it as well, Dad. I think this is what Wolves were concerned about, carrying him forward into the Premier League as well, and it's beginning to show now as well. So maybe he needs to come out of the team as well. I think maybe
he's better dropping deep, isn't he, Doyle?
I think he probably is.
Said that, so
but that might change things. But again, I think it'd be nice to see Roberts in the team again, because for what periods of time, that albeit short,
he did look good.
Periods of time, he did look good in possession of the ball. I'd like to see Robinson come into the team.
That's an interesting point, that, isn't it? Because I think you were saying off camera before that about the 2 in the middle there, and you're a bit unsure about perhaps the way they work together there.
Yeah, I mean, I see pluses and minuses for Neumann being in the side. Obviously, the plus is the pace thing.
Yeah.
Now, I would ask myself how much that worked on Saturday. Given that Sorba Thomas, I wouldn't say he didn't have the run of the pitch, but he caused us a lot of trouble.
Yeah, he did.
He did. So was that sufficient enough to negate his threat? Probably not. But I think, would you keep him in the side on that basis alone? I don't know. I don't think so. And what the negative side is, he's still getting used to the English game.
Yeah.
Jack Robinson offers 2 things in particular. I think experience is clear, and it's informed experience, in as much as the side that he played for most recently have been very successful in getting out of the division at the right end.
Yeah.
The other thing is leadership. I've got this idea that he isn't captain at pretty much all the clubs he's played for no reason. He's done it because he shows those skills.
Yeah.
And he's good at getting behind people. That'd be part of it. But the other thing is he's not afraid to give out a bollocking.
No.
Yeah, you need a bit of that. I
do.
think we need that character again in this team, because we lost a couple of characters, didn't we, over the summer? And
Yeah, we
I
did.
think he really will bring us that, and obviously with his leadership and his experience there. The other thing I wanted to touch on was the fullback situation as well, because obviously we've had Boz and Laird in there, who've had some very strong performances week in, week out. Now, he's been super consistent for us last season, and Alex Cochrane, I think, was one of our, if not our best, I think a little bit of a, an underdog last season for, as far as that's concerned in that conversation. But he looked poor against Stoke. It was absolutely schoolboy defending. And how Chris Davis, looked at that at half time and decided he can play 90 minutes, I don't know, because he was jumping in all the time at the wing. He only had to flick it past him and he was in. Yeah. And then the two were exposed then in the middle. I don't know whether that was some sort of something to do with the way we wanted to play or whatever that was. It was intentional. But I don't know what that was about, because just stand up to your man. It's pretty obvious, isn't it?
Yeah, it's basic principle, isn't it? At the end of the day, and the Blues commentary on Blues TV Plus were alluding to that as well. Yeah. Be a stand-up defender. He's jumping in too much. It's too predictable. And I think that was probably the way that we surmised our performance, wasn't it? Our post-match rate, it was too predictable. Yeah. And Cochrane was a key element to that in the way that Stoke City were able to get in behind us a lot of the time. Yeah. And I think as well, I did mention it in my post-match reaction about changing the back line of the personnel and bringing Robertson in and having Laird at left back. And the one Blues fan in particular, and there was sort of others that briefly sort of touched on it as well, but the one in particular did actually say agree with that in terms of a back four, and I think that probably needs to be what we do, because I think even going forward, Laird offers more than Cochrane in my opinion.
Would you go with that as well, do you think?
Potentially, yeah, and again, I guess I'm thinking a little bit about the opposition here, because in looking at how they play, their formation's the same as ours, and therefore the same as Stokes in effect. And if you were wishing about one player that wasn't influential for the opposition this weekend, you wouldn't want it to be the right winger. Unfortunately, it fucking is. Yeah. Because their player they've got two really that are on fire. One in particular is Ronald. If you got to put O on the end of his name, if you wanted to be a really great player. But he's the Brazilian winger. The guy scored 3 goals already this season. Yeah. I think he might have 1 assist as well. So he, after being fried last weekend, Cochrane would not want that.
Just thinking, he's Brazilian, right?
Yeah.
But he's called Ronald.
Yeah.
Why didn't they just... Well, that's a bit lazy, isn't it, when he was born? I'll call him Ronald. Forget the O.
I thought, it's a bit commonplace, isn't
it?
Really? There's too many of those Ronaldos about.
Maybe they did,
yeah. We're going to have the one Ronald.
There's the brilliant one and there's the fat one.
Great player, though.
Yeah, it was a great player, yeah. So sorry about that, Ronaldo. Ronald, he was a bit weird, but he's had a very good start. The other guy who's a threat, and again, this goes back to what we've just been talking about. The centre halves is Jan Pochnik up front. He's the guy who plays in the centre forward position. Yeah, played for Swansea for a bit, as I understand it. Not really made a big impression, but again, he's got 3 goals. Now, you're talking about 2 positions there that we're feeling some vulnerabilities about at the back, is exactly where they've got their top goal scorers. Yeah. Now, that's a big decision for CD. I think he's got to look at that and say, am I going to go with loyalty, go with the guys that kind of started the season with, or are we already in the area of saying that they're not right for this game?
Does he maybe favour his favourites, if you will, from last season? Because I feel like, I've seen some fans say this about, and I do understand that you have to have the characters that have been from the winning team of that season, but is it sometimes you've got to put that aside and go in with what's best for the game that's in front of you?
I think you've just got to be pragmatic, haven't you, really? Because I think it's evident now that what we're doing, or what we have been doing, particularly in the last couple of games, isn't working. And I think a change in personnel sometimes is as good as anything, really. We've been not as active later on in the transfer window, not forgetting that we were very active early on, and we brought in a lot of personnel. But a lot of this personnel probably isn't as performing well as we maybe thought it would, given the reputation of who they've played for before. I'd like to see a change to what I've mentioned in the back line. We're going from right to left, from Boz, Robertson, Clara, and then over to Laird as well. I think that would offer us, and even you can move the central 2, really. But obviously, really, I suppose if you wanted to really make sure people were naturally where they wanted to be, I suppose you could make sure that Robertson was on his left side, but then he could play across the back line, can't he? So he's probably the more versatile out of him and Clara anyway. So I don't think that's going to be too much of a problem, but I just think Neumann needs just a bit more time. He just doesn't see quite in step with the rest. from what we've seen in the division of other defensive players, particularly at centre-back as well. So I think changing personnel probably needs to happen for the back line. But like you say, Davis seems to have a tendency to stick with the loyalty type players, particularly from what you've seen last season as well, which at the moment is, in my opinion, is just costing us points.
Well, this is another thing, and I think a few fans drew attention to this, and when I had to think about it, I thought, Now, one of the biggest loyalty players last season, and deservedly so, because I think he was in the the team of the season or something like that, was Tomoki Iwata. He hasn't actually really stood out so far for really any of the games we've played. Dare I say he's at his level? I personally think that he is. And he hasn't been a very influential, and it's, some would argue what his role kind of is. I see him as somebody who picks the ball up from deep and he's able to move us up the pitch, and he's very good at navigating where the second ball's going to be to retrieve possession for us. But what happens is because you've got him in that 6 and Paik drifts out to support the 2 out wide or up top a little bit more, depending on where we are on the pitch. Some argument, I think, there's maybe to have Doyle in the 2.
Maybe.
Because what we just alluded to earlier, he's also very good at retrieving the ball from deep, winning you second balls and moving you up the pitch quickly.
Yeah.
Is that worth doing? Did we bring in a quality of that, a player of that quality, to do that?
I think that might depend a little bit on who he's got behind him. Right, so again, it goes back to the defensive thing. If you've got the balance with Clara and Robinson behind, so a left footer on the left, and Clara not just defending as he defends in that position on his natural right foot, he brings the ball forward, and he also almost becomes like the defensive midfield player himself when we're pushing forward and we got the ball. Under those circumstances, I could maybe see that Tommy Doyle might come in for Iwata, but I've got this idea that CD is just too risk averse to do it. I think that's what it comes down to. I don't know whether it's favouritism, because I think if another quality defensive midfield player had become available, or there's one on a free transfer at the moment that we could get in, he'd get him in. If he thought he was somebody superior to Iwata, he'd get him in. Yeah. But I think it's just his risk aversion approach, and I think that's the problem. I mean, I agree with your point. If we want to be more progressive, we want to create more chances, and we want to be more on the front foot, then that would be a change you would want to look at. But it's an interesting point that Dan was making earlier on about being pragmatic. That was a word that CD used on a regular basis in the summer. Particularly in key interviews. He was talking about, I want to win football games. That's the main thing. Not be some kind of dogmatic approach to sticking to my formation and my way of playing. Look what's happened to Russell Martin at the minute at Rangers. He's getting all
parallel
kinds of bollocks, isn't he? Really, for what the way he's sticking to his principles. And I guess even Ange in an opposing way, Ange Postecoglou at Spurs last season, for sticking to it again. You've got to be adaptable, and if CD means what he said, then he'll do it. This is where we find out what the man's about. He's lost 3 games, in fact 2 games in a row, for the first time ever at Blues. This is where we find out what he's made of.
Of course we do.
Is he a man of his word? Is he going to do that? Is he going to have a plan B? Or is he just going to kind of give us platitudes and stick to his way of playing? I'm really intrigued to see how that plays out.
Yeah, that'll be part of the interest when it on Saturday. Obviously, we want to be having shots on target. We want to have a point or 3 and just get something from the game. But I think the other thing other than that is a good performance and something that has us take points whichever way it's done. I think, not to excuse, the way we play, but just be pragmatic. I think is what we're driving home here, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, like you say, it's about that pragmatism, and I know we've used that word a lot, but that's probably the best way of looking at this. Really, we need a change in personnel. I believe, as we've discussed, we need to be obviously getting the ball forward quicker. A build-up play. Our possession play is good, but we need some end product for it. And like you say, we need some shots on goal, even from distance. We need to give something to the opposition to think about other than just like sitting back and pressing us. Because let's be fair, there was a period of time that beyond the first 20 minutes against Stoke City that really they didn't need to do it beyond their goal, and we were allowed to play. So if teams are going to do this, let's take advantage of it. And I think just touching on that as well, leading up to the top end of the squad as well, or what the team will be starting on Saturday. Do you think it's probably going to be, as you say, Stansfield in the 10 with Kyogo up top, or do you think maybe there's possibly some reasoning behind maybe that we could see Duck in the 10 and Sano up top?
Maybe on that point, maybe we should call our 11s as we think they're going to be. Maybe we should
maybe
what we reckon he's going to start them.
Yeah.
So Dan, do you want to reel yours off?
Yeah, so I think it will be Allsop up top.
That'll be
in
good.
goal.
I'd like to see it.
Come on, Ryan.
That's the answer to the.
Robbie up top.
He's the big man.
Yeah.
Set pieces.
Go on then, target man. He probably had more ball than Willem there does, to be fair. I mean, appreciate he's out injured, but he hasn't had in his own
My
time
granddaughter
anyway.
does that more.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, we're appalling at set pieces anyway. I know we mentioned that in our post-match reaction following the Stoke City game, but yep. Allsop in goal, and then I think from right to left, I think we'll have Boz, and then we'll have Clara on the right, Robinson on the left, the centre backs, then Ethan Laird at left back. I think a Water then. I think we're going to see Paik in the middle again as well. I see with Damari out wide on the left. And I think, see, this is the problem, isn't it? Because, I mean, you know, you're not going to see Kesh or Williamson, are you? So, dare we say we see Doyle out on the right, maybe?
You never know, actually, because that is... I'll come to my team in a minute, but you carry on, Dan. Sorry, this is your team, not mine.
Yeah, so quite possibly Doyle out on the right, as it were. But then I think, just for the change of it, as it were, I'd like to see Duck in the 10, because I think even with his back to goal as well, he does pick people out. He knows where people are. He's an intelligent player. We've already seen a little bit of this every now and then when he's been on the pitch as well. He's had the ball at his feet, and he is potentially a threat as well. I think he's just taken a bit of time to get his fitness and get match ready, as it were. It's taken a bit of time for him, as it were.
Is that what you think Chris Davis will do, by the way? Do you think he will do that?
I think there's a possibility, yeah, and I think he might stick Stano up top,
right,
which I'd like to see, because I think that would, other than dictating the press, which Stano does anyway, and I think he'll be able to do that up top, I think it would serve him better, and I think it would help us better in bringing the ball forward. And I think because at the end of the day, Stano turns off the back of a ball in from Duck, Stano will turn and he'll look straight to goal and he'll have a pop at goal, whereas Kyogo's either looking to make another pass or he's looking to run at people. Stano, if he sees a gap opening up, he'll go for goal, and I think that's just going to help.
Makes sense, yeah.
I'll probably go with a fairly similar team there. So basically, I'll go with the exact back five you've gone with. Actually, other than Robinson, I think that while I'd like to see him, I think he'll stick with Neumann next to Clara. I think something just tells me that that's what he'll do, and I feel like it's while he's got the experience Robinson, I feel like he'll stick with Neumann and Clara because he sees that as the partnership. You know, we signed him back in January, so I think that's how he sees that will be. I think the two again. I think it will still be Paik and Iwata, and then I think he'll go with Dimi on the wing.
Yep.
I also think he'll go with, like you, Dan, I'd like to see Marvin Duksh in the 10, but I think he'll put Stano in the 10. And then he'll go Roberts out on wide right and Kyogo up top.
Okay.
That's what I think he'll do. But I would like to, on your point about Stano, I'd like to see Stano in the 9 because he leads our press, and because of the way they like to play, leads our press, somebody in the 10 and out wide, and move up as a team to press to win the ball back high. Yeah. And someone did say this in the comments on our last video, is that we seem to lose our ability to press high in the last two games. Anyone notice that?
Yeah.
We've just stopped, particularly the last game, we stopped doing it. I don't know what that was about. Chris Davis is massive on winning the ball back high and defending from the front. Well, we need to do that on Saturday. If they're going to keep the ball, we need to win it high, and you defend from the front that way, don't you? So
I think a little bit of that is that oppositions move the ball quicker than they did in League One, as they do in the Championship, and I think that's probably affecting the press a little bit. Obviously, Stano dictates the press, doesn't he, up at the top? But I think it's just our response to the way that teams are playing in the Championship.
They're better players, so they've got better technical ability to move it around, haven't they? You know,
Absolutely.
And Stoke kept you doing the same move. In effect, they kept getting it out of man off because they knew that he got Cochrane on toast.
Of course they did.
You know, so they're just quicker thinkers at this level, not just quicker feet. They've got quicker brains, so that's going to happen, isn't it? You know,
it's pressing in the right areas, though, in the right moments, isn't it? When teams are. This is what I'm saying about its importance on Saturday, because if they like to have the ball, or by the fact that I think that we're going to have the ball, we're still going to want to try and win it up high when we do lose it up high.
Yeah.
I think that's important, and we missed that in the last few games.
I think I agree with you. I think it depends on how the game's going, because part of the reason it didn't happen for the first half an hour on Saturdays because the ball wasn't in their fucking half.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
We were the ones being pressed. Yeah. We tried to build from the back, as we normally do, and break through the lines. It didn't happen. No. It didn't happen, and that's why, I mean, their defence had a fairly easy afternoon anyway, but particularly in that, they might as well put their feet up in the first half an hour.
I think one of the Stoke fans on our video actually said, keeper should just put his feet up.
Get the deck chairs out, you might as well. You know, there was nothing going on, and that's part of the problem in that particular game. But I do take your point that if Swansea play the way that you expect them to play with high possession, one of the top 5 teams in that respect in the division in terms of possession stats, then we absolutely should. And I think for that reason, I'm on a par with you in terms of your team. I'm going to do a tweak though. And again, this goes down the loyalty route. I don't think he'll put Laird on the left, despite the fact that Ronald will create a threat out there. Ronald, yeah, that's maybe what we should call him, yeah. I think he'll stick with Cochrane, and I think he'll have a word with him and to say, right, this is your chance for redemption.
Okay.
Show us what you can do.
Personally, I don't think it will do very much. I think we're going to see more of the same.
It could be, Dan. I don't know what kind of winger he is. I mean, somebody who's going to score 3 goals is, I guess, maybe he's inverted. He must be.
Yeah.
If he's coming in off the right and he's hitting a lot of goals, he's got to be coming in on his left, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has, definitely.
So I'm guessing he's going to go on to Cochrane's weaker foot, which might be an argument to play Laird, because if that guy's coming in, you're attacking Laird's right foot, which is his stronger foot. Yeah. So what I'd like to see is I'd like to see Laird there, and I'd like to see Robinson as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you're asking me what I think CD will do, I think he'll put Cochrane in. And I think that's it's bloody mindedness, and I think there's a bit of him that wants to be proved right.
You just want, it was just exactly what I was going to say, took the words out of my mouth. Like, we just want something that he does, changes-wise or not, to go in favour for us and actually show that we've got a bit of fight, we've got a bit of quality, and we can, actually get some more points on the board and more shots on target, I think.
Yeah, I think that's just what we need, isn't it, really? And just touching on what you were saying with the loyalty there, Dad, I know you've got to go for the rest of your team, as it were, but I think it was unchanged from ours beyond that, wasn't it, really?
Yeah, beyond the Cochrane thing, yeah.
But this probably links into what I'm going to say, actually, because I know you went differently from me, didn't you, on the right of midfield? So I went with Tommy Doyle, and again, that's because of the loyalty element of it, were, because he's played Doyle quite a bit recently.
Yeah, it's true.
But I would like to see Roberts out on the right.
I
think he would probably offer more going forward. He's got more of that spark, like you say, so more of that mentality to get forward and potentially create more as well. Yeah. So I think really that's probably the way I'd like him to go. But again, I think probably the back line isn't going to be what we all want it to be. I think he is going to play with the loyalty route with Cochrane and probably Neumann as well, because like you say, Joe, he sees that as the pairing at centre-back, doesn't he? So I think really, now that we've gone through our starting 11, each all three of us, as it were, so what do we say to predictions to the scoreline on Saturday? I think I'm going to be somewhat unusually optimistic, and maybe I'm reading a little bit too much into the team training at our ground at St Andrews Knighthead Park, maybe sort of a change in mentality as we've talked about, but I'm going to go with 1-0 Blues.
I'm going to go 0-0.
Okay.
And I'm going to do the same as Joe, because I think it's both teams are high possession, both teams are good defence, and both teams are in the bottom 5 of the number of shots in a game on average. It just points to 0-0 to me. A bit of a chess game.
I would agree.
It could be a moment of singular quality from either side. It breaks the deadlock and it does end 1-0. But I don't know. I just see Blues being keen to get another point on the board, so not being too adventurous, which is disappointing because that's what we need. And I think Swansea will think a point away at Birmingham is a good result to carry on with their momentum. They're unbeaten in 6. So, why not? They've made a very good start. 0-0 for me.
12:30 kickoff as well, so it's the first of the season. I always like 12:30 kickoffs.
I quite like them as well. Gives you a nice chunk of the day thereafter, don't you? And if
I think
it's gone good or bad,
12s are the best. When it's like, what was it? Was it an Easter Friday? The Good Friday.
It would have been Easter Friday.
The Wickham game. Yeah,
that was it. Yeah.
I'm not sure I like the idea of feeling a bit pissed at about 11:30 in the morning, but there you go.
I think it's great when it's a bank holiday weekend.
Yeah, you get a quality breakfast in before, you'll be fine. It's standard in this country, isn't it? It's full English breakfast, pint of Stella and a fight. Yeah, that's pretty much it in this country. Isn't it?
Depending on where you are. If you're a bit like South East London, then you might have a Carling, but
Yeah, and your light breakfast is like your toast, your fruit, and then porridge if you're a monster, I suppose. But and that's about it, really, isn't it? Really, it's kind of if you're in jail, isn't it? Really, porridge. Well, you got your aspiring comedy career on the go there, Dan. So keep them coming. Absolutely. Here all week, every week.
Open mic.
Hey, there we go. Yeah, maybe that's what we need to do.
Maybe we should.
And I think really as well, to be fair as well, when we touched on earlier, sort of at the beginning of today's episode, really, is that Blues fans sort of been pessimistic sort of early onto the season, and it is early days. I suppose really that could be the case, and just because this was a change of the week, wasn't it? And we sort of expected it, didn't we, given the last result? But Sellers has now gone, obviously, from Sheffield United, and they've brought Chris Wilder back into the fold. Yeah. I mean, you've got to feel hard done by, haven't you, if you're a Sheffield United fan? You're just sitting there thinking, for fuck's sake,
that will change.
Why did we change it?
That will change the landscape for them.
Oh, it will do, and in a positive light for them.
Yeah, it will. Yeah, he'll just get back amongst them. And I know some of the playing personnel has changed and they've moved on and stuff like that, but he's just got that blood in his veins. That club in his veins, hasn't he? Like,
he has, yeah.
He wants them to kind of, replicate what they did last season.
What's annoying is we've played them in the cup and beat them, and right when this dickhead's come back, we're gonna fucking lose.
Yeah, we are.
I'm not gonna take the points. So.
Yeah, we're gonna lose both league games against them now. You watch.
Yeah.
That'll be all right. We're going to win every game between here and Christmas. I just know it.
Yeah,
you know.
You're gonna put a bet
just
on
Sheffield United and Blackburn all season
I'm
long.
not a betting man.
I wouldn't do it for Blues. No chance.
No,
You're doing an
I
okay.
couldn't do it either, to be fair, Joe. But
No.
thank you for joining us again, gentlemen. It's been much
No
appreciated.
problem, yeah, my pleasure.
Absolutely. And to all our viewers and listeners, thank you very much for joining us here again on the Free Blue Boys podcast. Please let us know in the comments section what you think maybe the starting 11 will become the game on Saturday against Swansea City, 12:30 kickoff at St Andrews Knighthead Park. Will there be change in the back line? Will we see it at the top maybe as well? And also let us know what your thoughts are, obviously, suppose Stoke City as well. And maybe we need to see other changes in personnel in amongst the squad and the team as well. But until then, we will be joining you again in the immediate post-match reaction following this Saturday's game against Swansea City. Make sure you check that out. And of course, we've had some recent uploads during the international break, some Q&A sessions as well, some interesting content there, talking about in and amongst some of our competitors in the Championship. Well, make sure you check that out. But until then, fellow Blues fans, remember to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button so you never miss your upload. Please consider following us on our social media platforms, links to which are on the screen for you now and in the description below. But as always, Blues fans, until then, stay true to the Royal Blue. Keep right on.
Keep right on.